Hello, everybody, and welcome to DraftKings. That's right, this is DraftKings FC. My name is Atkins, and I am your host. Now, joining me as ever to my left is Jamie Hinks, the DraftKings staff writer. And over there, yes, returning from a nice, lovely sunny vacation in Italy, it is, of course, Edo Delamonte. Right, guys, this is the international break. We've had 7 pulsating weeks of the English Premier League thus far. So the question is this, and this is a big one. Hopefully you've done your research. I want you guys to give me the 2 best in each position. So I want 2 goalkeepers, 2 defenders, 2 midfielders, 2 strikers. We'll leave the utility players for now. I just want your highlighted players, and I'm going to start with you, Jamie. Jamie, the best 2 goalkeepers.
So I think for the top price guy, it's quite easy. I think Hugo Lloris at Tottenham. His average salary has been $4,900, which isn't actually that much, but he's only played 5 times in the Premier League. But he already has 3 clean sheets, 1 in the Champions League as well. And he's so calm back there. And also, he's behind the best defence in the league, I think.
Easy.
I don't think there's a better centre-back pairing than the Belgian boys, Alderweireld and Vertonghen. As my cheap guy, I've gone for Jordan Pickford because Sunderland goalkeepers just make saves.
Very busy. Very busy.
5.4 saves per game is math. That's 10 points every single week for your DraftKings lineup. Doesn't really matter if he lets in 3 because you're still picking up a few points. So, but they're never going to win any games. And they're going to get less points than Derby.
I still believe the Moyes revolution is going to take off at some point. We're just all patiently waiting, David. We're just patiently waiting. Edo, your goalkeepers and why, sir?
They can bring back Big Sam if they want now, obviously.
A pint of wine.
Yeah, oh my God. So for the top range goalkeeper, I found this quite difficult because clean sheets have been hard to come by this season. In general, games have been more open than I was expecting. But actually, I shouldn't have been that surprised because last season I should have basically expected us to pick up where we left off last season. But David De Gea sneaks in for me, Man United. He's got 2 clean sheets. That's a big factor for me. They looked solid early on. That's kind of disappeared recently. But he's still going to cost you, in the 5,000 region, he's not too expensive. And I guess that if you look, the thing is, I was going to say, if you want Man United to play a weak team, trust them. But then they played Stoke. And we all know what happened there. But I still think he's a solid pick, and the inconsistency of his early days is gone. So I think De Gea is a good choice. My surprise guy, we've talked a lot about Tom Heaton.
Yes.
I'm going to fire a slightly different name, Eldin Jakubovic of Hull. Because there were some those crazy early Hull games in which he was making loads of saves. I was a big fan of that, and he's never going to cost you more than 4,000 or so. So I think he's a really good choice. Although Hull City's defence is not, you got yourself Curtis Davis back there. Mike Phelan has shown that he can defend against certain teams.
I'm going to stop you. I think Hull are terrible now.
Oh, they are terrible, but they can.
I mean, they had a warm start, made us all, shook us all because we all picked them to go down. But I've been resolute about my prediction of them going down. And I'm sure you guys have been too.
Oh yeah.
But it's a good choice. I'm surprised that neither of you have picked the guy I pick every week, and it's Ben Foster. I think he's played really rather well. I genuinely do. I think he's picked me up some good points.
The numbers back that up.
And he's always around $4,500, so he is quite cheap. Now we've got to go straight into defenders, guys. Jamie, I'm back to you. Who are the 2 best defender picks?
I've gone back to Spurs again, as much as it pains me. Kyle Walker, average salary's been $5,600, so he's been pricey, but 2 assists, 4 clean sheets. You can't argue with that. I think he's been the best out of the 2 that they've got, purely because Rose has been injured. I may have picked Rose here if Rose had been fit all season, but it's the way that Pochettino plays with those fullbacks, bombing forwards the whole time. On DraftKings, it's really advantageous to have that just because you're going to get more points, which brings me on to my value pick, which is Jose Holebas of Watford, who is Greek, who I thought he was Spanish. I'm sorry, Jose, because of his name. But Walter Mazzari's back 3 system really benefits these fullbacks. And he used it during his time at Napoli all the time, and I wasn't really that surprised to see. Right. I mean, he bought Juan Zuniga from Napoli, who I expected to play here, but Holebas is keeping out of the team. And he's also the top-scoring fantasy defender this season so far in the Premier League, with 65.75 points, 31 crosses, 1 goal, 1 assist. Even when they're being really bad, like they were against Burnley, he's still picking up sort of 9 to 10.
He's like this season's Christian Fuchs. In a sense, isn't it?
A little,
I would.
I wouldn't.
Fuchs last year sort of came out of nowhere, but he became a mainstay in most of our teams because his sheer, consistency.
Yeah, I don't think I'd go that far just because I think Watford they're not as good as Leicester, and Holebas isn't as good a fantasy fullback as Fuchs, but I get what you're saying. It is
a surprise element,
kind of a bolt from the. I'd say more a Robbie Brady. but
But
not quite as good. Like,
It was a very surprise element. Thank you, Jamie. And Edo, your two defenders and why?
So I always joke about DK being Tottenham rejects heaven. This is a Chelsea reject, Patrick Van Aanholt.
Yes.
Viva la illusion. Because I think what makes it so impressive is how bad Sunderland have been. So Van Aanholt has not benefited from a single clean sheet this season, if I'm not mistaken, and yet he's actually getting points. He's up there, so I think he's the kind of guy. I think people know to spend that money on him because they see him as a roving fullback who'll get forward, but the crosses are all there. The numbers are good. My value guy, he floats around the 4,300 area, and I was quite surprised to see him there, Daily Blind, just because, so, okay, you have those 2 clean sheets, but he seems to be... Well, the thing is, what's good about DK is it rewards players, Andros Townsend, who are not necessarily that good in the real world, but in the...
Hard to argue.
Yeah.
Jack of all trades, master of none, and I think Daily Blind is a similar one. He does so many different things. His stat sheet is points. He'll get so much from different things like tackles, interceptions, a couple of crosses in there. But I think he gets underestimated as well, as I would have done on a lot of occasions, just because he doesn't necessarily sort of leap off the page at you.
He's not box office, but he's doing a job,
He's
right?
solid,
doing a
yeah.
job. Right, let's go straight to the midfielders now. Jamie, who are your 2 and why?
England's Andros Townsend. Yes. Thank you. He'll be tearing Malta to pieces on Saturday. 112 fantasy points this season already. I believe that's very close to certain Kevin De Bruyne, who is being touted as
Scaringly
Ballon
close.
d'Or winner.
Is that just 7 points off the
place.
top? The top players are all on 119, am I wrong?
I think so, yeah. I don't think he's far off that. Leads the Premier League in crosses with 56, 5th in shots, 24, makes a lot of tackles. His shot count is far bigger than it's ever been at any club ever. His biggest before that was 2.9 per game for QPR. It's gone up to 3.4 for Palace, which is really important to think of when you're playing DraftKings, just because I think shots is a really underrated category. I think people now look at crosses because the number is always so high.
So it seems like he does appear to perform better at less fashionable London teams. He had a few years at Spurs and he made his name.
It depends what you call fashionable. I mean, if you call White Hart Lane fashionable, that's your lookout. But I think Selhurst Park's got its charm. It's not fashionable.
It has.
But
I'm a fan.
it's that scruffy sort of hipster ground, isn't it, really? But value, another, well, they're not London, they're Hertfordshire, but Watford, I've gone for Etienne Capoue. He has probably been, might be the most surprising fantasy player in the whole of Europe so far this season, because I think everyone just thought he was a massive defensive midfielder who couldn't really do anything beyond that. And now he's just scoring goals, which he is being played further forwards. They've
They've taken the leash off him.
Yeah, they really have, and he's
playing with a smile on his face, and he scored, 3 to 4 goals?
Well, 4 goals, 1 assist. I mean, you can't argue with that. And an average salary of $4,900. He's almost on 100 fantasy points for the season. Good on him, I say.
Good on him. And you know what, DraftKings fans, pay heed. Pay heed to what Jamie said there, because, Capoue and Townsend, they're bringing on the points weekly. Edo, yourself, Premier League, midfielders, who? Why?
Someone I once told people to fade, Michael Antonio. That was a bit of a mistake, but he actually leads DraftKings in points alongside Diego Costa. What's impressive is that the first game of that season he was played at right back, and I don't think that was the only game where he was played at right back. And he will be the smile on West Ham's face on many sort of very sad occasions. There was that game against City where suddenly he was moved forward, he managed to score a goal, but they still managed to lose. It was the first of the 4-2 defeats, I believe. Congratulations, West Ham. But I think he gets put in here simply because everything else at the London Stadium has been so terrible. He did pop up with that late goal against Bournemouth. So there have been some really good highlights. And I mean, the thing is, you're paying through the nose for this guy. I mean, unlike, for example, Diego Costa, or another, other names you've mentioned, Michael Antonio is right at the top there. So, except for Riyad Mahrez, basically.
Can he keep it up? That's the question. I mean, if you're looking at your Payets, for instance, or your Mahrez's, these guys, they did it last season, they're consistent. Antonio, he's off to a flyer. But if we're asking DK fans to have faith with that, then obviously it's a bit of a leap, because we don't know. I mean, last year he was a rampaging defender last year. All of a sudden, he's cropping up with goals in a very, very average West Ham side. But I understand your logic. Who else have you got there?
And my other guy is Heung-min Son. Fell in love, really. 5 goals, 2 assists in only 6 EPL games. What's really impressive as well about Son was, he was going to leave in the summer, and then all of a sudden, Pochettino managed to change his mind, and that seems to have worked. What I like about it as well is that Son has scored his goals early, so he's actually killed games, and that's what. So DK, what really kills you sometimes is you can get a good score, get a high-scoring game. There'll always be someone else who has more than you, someone else who will have picked, say, Raheem Sterling and, I don't know, Jermaine Defoe. So, at least with Heung-min Son's games, he's come in, he's scored, game over, and you've got that guy. So just for that, his price has always been low as well, and it really hasn't increased according to his proportion.
You know
of his
what? A
goals.
very, very good pick, Edo, because we are talking about the prize picks of the first 7 weeks, and Son has been brilliant, but his ownership has been very high because of the wonderful budget that he is. And so, you got to watch out for that, because if everyone's picking the same player, you're all equalising each other out. So, forwards, the sexy stuff. Jamie, who have you got?
Zlatan Ibrahimovic. I can't. Yeah, for some reason in my head I was sort of doubting him a little tiny bit, and then I thought, no, this is Zlatan. He's going to tear it up, which he's doing. He
Slow down with the goals, though, isn't he?
He's still scoring. But not many of their other. I mean, they did have that 4-1 win against Leicester, which he didn't score in. But apart from that, he's been ticking along nicely. He'll always bring you shots. That's what he always brought you for Champions League on DK last season.
Yes.
And he's had 38 this season, which is the most among the strikers, I believe. And yeah, you wouldn't think he's 35 years old, would you? You'd think he's 28 the way he's playing. He's in such ridiculously good shape for someone who's coming to the end of their career. You could see him going on for another 5 or 6 years. And
Still quite pricey, but
very
not,
pricey. Like average price is usually mid 9,600. He could top 10,000 if he gets on a run and people pick him every single week. But yeah, his ownership is usually quite high as well, just because he's the only player in United's team, it seems, that you can guarantee points off, apart from maybe Blind, who Edo mentioned earlier.
He is box office.
And yeah, my value pick is Theo Walcott. I'm really happy that he's playing that well this season, because he's a nice guy. He's not a nasty bloke, you can tell.
No.
And to see him performing well after getting so much flack off Arsenal fans, I think it's really pleasing. 3 goals, 2 assists already this season. 23 shots and 7 crosses. Him playing out wide and having Sanchez almost playing a false 9 in the middle is really benefiting him. And I mean, I'm not going to say Arsenal are going to win the league, because they're not. But this run of, we know what to expect with Arsenal. But first 7 games, there's no pressure.
No,
they're playing freely.
That's what they tend to do.
Yes.
And it gets to about spring, and then okay. So those are your strikers. Edo, entertain me. Who are your strikers?
Diego Costa we're going to start out with. And I mentioned him earlier simply because he still isn't as expensive as he should be for someone who's got 6 goals and 2 assists. And as you mentioned earlier as well, 6 goals off 13 shots on goal. That's ridiculous. It's very clinical. There's something else as well. He's drawing more fouls than everyone except Eden Hazard in the league, so he's got 21. The Belgian has 23. Crucially as well for Costa, there's just something. He's just, the people have always got in the back of their minds he's going to get himself sent off. So I think that's discouraged people a few times. It certainly did discourage me earlier on in the season. But now, yeah, he's fully worthy of that. So until his price isn't really sort of sky high, he's skyrocket rather, he's right there. And my value pick is Raheem Sterling, Radio Raheem. And what I find impressive about City is that anyone in that front, in that lineup can score. He's actually been getting ridiculously good stats at DK, and he's been consistent with it. Other players in Alito will have a really good week. They'll have a maybe not so good one, even though he's a class player in Alito, but he's not always going to be in the goals. He had Aguero out, you've had De Bruyne. So with Raheem Sterling, especially from the summer he's having, I think he's up there. Like, he really is a really good player, and he's showing it on DK as well.
He really is. He's turned up for Pep, hasn't he? Has to be said. So that's it, everybody. We've gone through our defenders, our goalkeepers, our midfielders, and our strikers. They are just some of the picks, but you take a look at the stats. Get involved. Get the DraftKings app down into your phones. Take a look at the players on offer. We have the best league in the world here in England, and that's right. The EPL, first 7 weeks, has not disappointed. So all these players on offer. Guys, get your lineups together. Go and play your friends. Play the world. You can win big. Welcome to the big time.